Happy week 5, guys! I hope everybody had a nice mid-sem break and didn't do a lot of uni work. I did, but that's okay because that's okay. So this week we're focusing on design, class, and issues of taste. My presentation explores Thomas Lee's Too Much Fun, Contemporary Aesthetic Theory and Design. I'm going to go over the main themes of the article and discuss how they relate to my design artifact. Lee's paper is essentially a compilation of 3 approaches to the topic of work and play. He's explained and linked the differing perspectives in an easily digestible format, which made it easier for me to understand, and hopefully that makes it easier for me to explain to you. The works of Stephen Connor, Peter Sloterdijk, and Cien Nye don't especially contradict one another, rather they sort of pick an aspect of one theorist's idea and reframe it to suit their own perspective. Before we get into the concept, it's important to first define the terms work and play and identify the consistencies agreed upon between the theorists. Often synonymous with the word stress, work is characterized as a serious labor or mentality. Other words mentioned in association with the term include discipline, hardship, or relating to an adult matter. This is in stark opposition to the word play, which Lee describes as fun, pleasure, or frivolous. So, we have work and play, 2 separate terms. However, in Too Much Fun, they aren't separate at all. Work and play are inarguably linked, and this is based on the understanding that because of the advancements within modern society, we've reached a stage where play is available to us more now than ever before, which sounds great, right? Well, if we look at Connor's theology on the matter, it gets a little less fun and a little bit more sadistic. His research is heavily influenced by Sigmund Freud, and doesn't that just say it all? No, bear with me. So, Connor's argument is based on the idea that the feelings of joy or pleasure is an experience which society as a whole values very highly, and thus it welcomes and encourages people to feel that feeling whenever possible. This was fine in previous generations, where hardships like war or illness were the overriding experience of civilization. Modern society, on the other hand, largely doesn't have that restriction, and that's where the Freudian influence comes in. Without the restriction of hardship, which made play so pure and enjoyable, Connor argues that it is impossible for modern society to achieve what we used to know as play, and therefore we need to change our definition in order to feel any sort of pleasure. Connor proposes the idea of contemporary fun, where we add obstacles into our playtime, making the experience enjoyable again. In a very crude, odd example, think of Sebastian from Cruel Intentions.
I'm sick of sleeping with these insipid Manhattan debutantes.
Ow!
Nothing shocks them anymore.
Well, you can relax. I have a mission for you. Why I Plan to Wait by Annette Hargrove.
Paradigm of chastity and virtue.
Introduce her to your world of sex, drugs, and what else do you do? She's young, supple.
She'll be my greatest victory.
Bored of sleeping with the ditzy, easy girls of New York, he makes a bet to try and seduce Annette, who is already in a committed relationship and has promised to save herself for marriage. In this scenario, Sebastian makes the bet knowing it will be more difficult and that he will have to work harder in order to try and win Annette over. But that's exactly what makes the bet more attractive to him and why he makes the bet to begin with. Because in his mind, it'll be more satisfying to win over this girl. That wasn't my design artifact at all, but it was too good not to add it. My design artifact reflects Connor's other sociological observation on contemporary fun. In addition to the excess and pleasure perspective Connor identifies, he also observes a recent trend in society that has gained momentum, known as detox culture. Engaging in activities specifically aimed to detox, separate, and recenter us, Connor argues, is behaviour that has become necessary in a world where we as people are constantly overstimulated. My example for this, and coincidentally my design artifact, is Kaya Health Club. Kaya is a gym franchise that started in Melbourne in 2012. What sets it apart from other gyms and why it's my chosen artifact is the revitalizing, spiritual-esque branding Kaya promotes. Kaya sells itself as a kind of essential luxury that you need in your life in order to feel present and able to function within modern society, which is reminiscent of Sloterdijk's ideology. Slutterchick approaches Connor's excess of pleasure concept as an excess in time rather than an excess in material objects. He observed that with the decrease in time spent working and the increase in free time, people were going out and seeking experiences that would bring them joy. For example, some people really want a six-pack and now they have time to try and achieve that, so they go to the gym to try and get a six-pack. However, Slutterchick also noticed that with the rise in seeking pleasure-inducing experiences, there was also a rise in life insurance being taken out. And so he hypothesized that with the increase in play in modern society, there is also an increase in stress or work, prompting people to take action in order to feel safe while they explore play activity. This is all relevant because we as designers should be aware of this need for a balance between work and play so that we can create designs that satisfy both aspects. Kaya, for example, does this very well in the atmospheric design of their yoga studios. Now, I used to take Kaya's yoga classes, so I have a pretty in-depth knowledge about it. So, before you even walk into the studio, you're met with big lowercase letters outside the door that say Whisper Zone, and there's a tiny sign next to the entranceway that says the yoga is a phone-free zone. Then you enter the studio, and there's dim soft lighting all across the ceiling, and rich brown and black wooden floorboards that match the marble-inspired support beams, and there's curtains that wrap around the whole front wall instead of mirrors, so you're not distracted by your own reflection, and there's wind chime music playing in the background over the speakers, and the smell. Oh dude, the smell! It's pleasant and calm and fresh, and there's no way a gym should smell like this, but it does! Whew. That was a trip. A genuine memory trip to another experience. But that's the whole point. They so meticulously and completely blend the pleasure of a calming, rejuvenating atmosphere into a place that you traditionally expect to feel like you're working. You expect to smell sweat and feel pain, but you don't. You just feel calm. It's genius. But to bring it back, these are all just smart design tactics to distract you from the fact it's a gym. And depending on the kind of person you are, you do feel kind of funny being in that weird juxtaposition, which leads me to the last theme of Lee's article, Nagi's perspective on aesthetics and how they've evolved in modern day. Nagi takes the dynamic between work and play and applies it to specific terminology we use to describe aesthetics. One of her more popular examples is with the word zany, which she dissects as being both fun and unfun. She blames this on the advancement of technology and the increasing compulsion society has to please or to feel accepted in order to be pleased. This desire results in the terms feeling diluted because they are trying to be what they want to be instead of just being what they are. In the case of zany, for example, we can argue that zany can never truly represent fun because it is consciously trying to be fun, adding a sensation of stress to the result, making it feel calculated and a little bit desperate. If we translate this to my design artifact, we could argue that the calming, serene aesthetic that they're going for is also a diluted representation because there's obvious effort put in to create those elements, making it less authentic and therefore effective. With all the reading questions explained and my artifact presented, I'm going to wrap up with 2 discussion questions. Firstly, drawing on Nagi's ideologies that we just explored. Do you guys believe the duality of work and play present in aesthetic terminology lessens the experience? Is this an issue and do we have any control over it? And lastly, referring back to Connor's ideology on contemporary fun, as designers who to some degree rely on your creativity or play personas to produce work, do you find mixing play with your work affects how you view or engage in purely fun activities?